Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Marked by the Devil by Joanna Blake, narrated by Duran and Kendall Taylor. The night it all changed. Calloway. Not tonight, ladies. I felt a little guilty about all the disappointed faces, but I had somewhere to be, a birthday to celebrate. And to be honest, I was kind of bored with the constant hooking up with the club girls. They were more than just easy. They were literally always available and down to do just about anything a truly perverted mind could think up. Some of the guys called them skanks, but I didn't think that was a nice way to talk about a lady. Of course, that didn't mean I hadn't spent many a night fucking them stupid. Usually 2 or 3 at a time. More than a couple of times. 4. And twice, 5. Yeah, I'm kind of a legend around here. Not just for the way I use my ink gun, either. I'm the latest addition to the inner circle of the club. I'd come up with whiskey and had been brought inside on his word. Devlin, Jack, and Donahue all counted me as a brother. All the club guys were brothers in theory, but we were close brothers. Tight. Blood brothers. I hadn't had much of a family growing up other than my Nana. My parents had been addicts, and both died young. Not before scaring the fuck out of me a bunch of times, though. It had been my phone call after finding my mom lying in her own sick with a needle in her arm that made my Nana come and get me. She'd tried to protect me for years, but my mom had put on a good show for Child Protective Services. This was the final straw. I'd been 6 years old, but smart enough to call my Nana, who called 911. She'd driven hours in the dead of night to sit with her grandson and speak to the EMTs and the police. They treated my mother's lifeless body like she was a piece of garbage. Just something in the way to deal with. An inconvenience, not a person. I'd had an aversion to cops ever since, and a boatload of respect for my grandmother. I could never disrespect any woman because of that respect. Yes, they were more or less interchangeable to me, sexually, but I never turned down a good time. But lately things were changing. Lately I had not been feeling it. I wanted more than a place to put my dick. That was easy. I needed more than that. It was sneaking up on me, but it was there. I was like an uncle to Becky and Whiskey's kid, and it started to give me the itch for one of my own. Of course, that meant I'd have to find a woman worth staying home for. I could hardly imagine it, but maybe, just maybe, I was willing to put away my wild nights for one very lucky lady. I could say my future old lady was lucky for a couple of reasons, but number one was my incredibly long tongue. Even before I was a full club member, I'd never been at a loss for women. The guys all thought it was because I had a pretty face and some major ink. Some thought it was my piercings, or the fact that I had a gigantic dick. Nope, none of those things. All I had to do to get a woman was one thing. I just had to show her I could lick my eyebrows. Oh yeah, my tongue was longer than most guys' cocks, and I could work miracles with it. Of course, I didn't treat just anyone, but now and then I'd show a lady a really, really good time. I held a fist in the air as I left the clubhouse. It was still early, but there were women lining up, looking for fun. I had a bag of coke in my jacket pocket, a bunch of rolled joints, 3 bottles of tequila, and a case of beer at my crib. But tonight, I was going to be a good boy. Tonight was Nana's birthday. I jumped on my ride and tore off, making sure to stop home to pick up the present I'd bought for her earlier. I'd had just enough time to swing by the fancy florist in town before they closed. I headed to the skilled nursing home where my Nana was living. I paid for every cent of her care, and it was expensive too, but she was worth it. Because of the house I had bought her a few years back and all the money I'd sent her over the years, she didn't quite qualify for low-income medical insurance. So it was all out of my pocket. It was a good place, though, and she liked it. And if she ever took a fall again, someone would be there to help her. I'd nearly lost my mind last year when she took a tumble and was too far from the phone to call for help. If I hadn't dropped by because of a weird, twitchy feeling in the back of my mind, well, she might have lain there overnight. She was alone on the bathroom floor for a couple of hours as it was. I doubted I would ever forgive myself for those hours. I parked in the lot and pulled off my helmet. I ran a comb through my hair too, just to be respectful. Thankfully, Nana had never objected to my leather and ripped denim, but she did tell me to comb my hair every time I forgot. She never criticized me or called me a delinquent, even though I clearly was. A successful delinquent with my own shop, but still I was not exactly a Boy Scout. Far from it. I'd started acting out in school early. Even later when I wised up about keeping my mouth shut, I was up to no good. I'd been chasing and being chased by girls and even women from the moment puberty hit. I was tall for my age and already had a bad attitude. Then I'd discovered drugs and alcohol. If I hadn't learned how to use a tattoo gun, who knows what would have become of me. If it weren't for Nana, I know what would have happened. Nothing good, that's for damn sure. She loved me through all the bad times and the good. Now it was my turn. And damn if I wasn't going to do my best to make her final years the sweetest. I nodded to the lady at the front desk. She knew me. They all knew me here. I kissed the cheek of a white-haired lady who passed by on her walker. I was pretty sure her name was Eloise, but I couldn't be sure. She might smile like that at everyone, but it was such a sweet smile, so I always gave her a little kiss. Nana's door was open, signaling that she was open for visitors. I always had a moment of worry right before I walked in. Worry that she'd be hurt or lying on the floor. Or worse yet, that she'd be gone. But she was there, sitting in her favorite easy chair, with her feet up, her bed neatly made, by the staff I suspected, and a cup of warm tea on the little side table we'd brought from home. Most of the stuff in here was hers. It was like a little time capsule of her house and her life. There was even a photo of my parents together on one of their rare sober days. Hi, Nana. She used the side lever to lower her legs and waved me over.
Get in here, you rascal.
I bent down to give her a kiss and got my cheek squeezed for my troubles. Woman, how are you so strong? She giggled like a schoolgirl.
What do you have there?
This? I held up the flowers and present. This is for an adorable woman who lives here. I pretended to look around. If only I could find her. She swatted at me and cackled, but her eyes were shining as I handed over the gift and sat on the edge of her bed, holding the flowers. She opened the gift and crowed when she saw it was the latest book from her favorite author. She loved murder mysteries. I had teased her for years for being so bloodthirsty. She'd even had a murder mystery book club for a while. I'd never seen anything like it. 6 sweet-as-pie, white-haired grannies sitting around and talking about gory murders. It was too funny.
Oh, there you are. Come in, sweetheart.
I turned my head in time to see a young woman tentatively waiting just outside the door. I saw dark, wavy hair, an exceptional figure, and the prettiest damn face I'd seen in my life. My entire life. She looked like a doll, with tawny skin and pink, luscious-looking lips. But it was the huge, shy, deep blue eyes that caught and held my attention. She was too pretty, too sweet. Not to mention she looked innocent and pure, which instantly made me want to defile her, and not just once, like usual, maybe 4 or 5 times, just for starters. And just like that, my dick got hard. In a nursing home. Even worse, in the presence of my granny. I barely even noticed.
Oh, I didn't know you had a guest, Miss Bonnie. I'll come back later.
I was too dumbstruck to do more than stare. The woman, the girl, she was perfect. And she was leaving. I stared as she backed out of the room, taking her rolling tray of books with her.
Now, that's the kind of girl you should be settling down with, my boy.
My first thought was, she can't be real. My second thought was, she's way too good for me. But I didn't say any of that out loud. Nana would have a fit if she heard me talking like that. She'd always told me I was as good as anyone else, and I agreed with her. Until now. That girl was unearthly. She looked like a literal angel. I started praying that she had a gambling problem, a shoplifting addiction, a fault, any fault, anything that might put her remotely in my league. I'd never gone out with a good girl. I'd imagined them to be high maintenance, bad in bed, and full of annoying rules. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care. I wanted the good girl, and I was going to get her, come hell or high water. What's her name? Granny tilted her head to the side.
Oh, shoot. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I cleared my throat. I'll be right back. She laughed and clapped her hands together.
Go get her, son.
I ran down the hallway looking around. I didn't see her anywhere, and I wasn't sure whom to ask. My heart sank. I was starting to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing. After 20 minutes, I was walking in circles, not willing to leave until I got her name. And then I heard it. Singing. I knew it was her before I was even close. When I looked in the open doorway, I stopped, frozen in place. She was singing an old church song, something I hadn't heard in years. A song that I'm sure I would have found dull if I had heard it under any other circumstances. She looked like an angel. She sang like an angel. And from the way she hovered over the young man laying immobile in that bed, she was literally an angel. I was standing there when she finished her song. She looked up and saw me, taking a tiny step backward. Damn it. I didn't want her to be afraid of me. I remembered how I looked suddenly, covered in tats and wearing leather, and she couldn't even see all my piercings. What was I doing? I must be insane. But that didn't stop me. Nothing could. What's your name?
Me?
I cracked a smile at that. Who else would I be talking to? Yes, you.
Molly? Are you Bonnie's son?
Grandson. She raised me.
Oh, she's a nice lady.
Yeah, she's the best. I watched her nervously take the man's hand. I frowned. Was that her boyfriend? No, he was too young. And she worked here. Move on, Cal. A boyfriend wouldn't matter. Only a husband might stop me from what I was planning. Maybe. I cleared my throat. I'm Calloway. She smiled, but it wasn't a very big smile. That was okay. I realized I was going to have to move slow. She wasn't some club girl who was going to peel off her panties just because I snapped my fingers. I almost moaned at the thought of this beauty docilely taking off her panties for me. I wondered suddenly what color they were. White, probably, I decided. And just like that, white was my new favorite color. Do you work here, or are you visiting? I nodded toward the young man on the bed. It seemed like an innocent question, but she looked upset the moment the words left my lips.
Both.
She swallowed.
I work here to help pay for Tommy.
Oh, you're a good... I was about to say friend, but I needed to know. I let my words dangle, hoping she would fill in the blanks.
Sister.
I exhaled a sigh of relief. I was going to get this girl, and nothing would stop me. But even I would feel guilty taking her away from someone in a coma. I wasn't a total fucking monster. I was willing to be, if it got me what I wanted, but I would feel bad about it. How long have you guys been here? I've never seen you before. I was grinning at her dopily. At least she didn't look like she was going to run off anytime soon. Of course, I was kind of blocking the doorway.
We just got here a few weeks ago. He had an accident a few years ago. He was in a state-run hospital for a while, but it closed down. I didn't know where to take him.
I realized the poor girl was about to cry. This is a good place. Try not to worry. She nodded and gave me a brave smile. That smile just about broke my heart. In fact, I felt like my chest had cracked open and all these unfamiliar feelings poured out of me. I felt protective, possessive, and wildly turned on. What the hell was wrong with me? Women were a dime a dozen, but that way of thinking made zero sense to me right now. Staring at her, wanting her, fucking worshipping her.
I'd better get back to work.
Do you need a ride home? I can wait. Nana is reading, but I can hang out a while. She looked startled, but she shook her head rapidly.
I work the night shift.
Then she gave me a shy smile.
But thank you.
I watched her push her cart into the hallway, fighting the urge to ask her what time in the morning I should pick her up. Then I decided, fuck it. I'd just ask at the front desk and surprise her. Molly. Her name was Molly. Chapter 1. Galloway. I sat on my ride, letting the motor idle. It was 6 a.m. and I was outside Nana's nursing home, waiting for Molly. I'd spent the night at home alone, not drinking and not doing much of anything. I'd slept a little, but mostly I'd lain in bed and stared at the ceiling, deep in thought. I thought about my past. I thought about the present, which was an empty wasteland full of motor oil, tattoo ink, and easy women. The bright spots were hanging with my brothers and their families. My present, that was hopefully about to change. But mostly I thought about the future. I wanted Molly in it, whatever that looked like. I was far from the settling down type, but in the past few hours, I hadn't been able to imagine a future with her not in it. Not that I was picturing white picket fences, but I was thinking about having the girl in every damn way, as often as humanly possible. Hell, I wanted to impregnate her. It didn't make sense, but some animalistic part of me wanted to make her flat belly grow round with my baby. Either way, though, I wanted to go to Pound Town. I figured that 7 or 8 times a day would take the edge off. I'd never fantasized like that about a woman. I'd never had to. I'd been swimming in tail since I hit puberty. The truth was, I'd been the most popular boy in grammar school, too. So, all of this was out of character for me, to say the least. But I couldn't fight the overwhelming urge I had to claim her as my own, to mark her, to take her. It wasn't just a sex thing, though that was a big part of it. I wanted to empty my balls into her so badly it made me break out in a cold sweat. But it was more than that. It was a primal, caveman type of thing. And that was after spending 5 minutes with the girl. I had no idea if I would have the same reaction to her in the light of day. I could hardly wait to find out. So I waited. After a few minutes, a slight-looking girl appeared in the doorway. She glanced over her shoulder, waving at someone. Then she stepped out into the early morning light. I stood up, putting the spare helmet under my arm. She didn't see me at first, so I took the time to have a long, thorough look at her. I was halfway hoping my memory had been exaggerating, embellishing her beauty. But no. If anything, she was more beautiful than I could have imagined. It was as if she was so perfect, my mind couldn't hold on to her image exactly right. Seeing her now, in person, well, it was like taking a long cold drink on a hot day. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, letting the misty air waft over her. I cleared my throat, and she startled, sensing a predator. She opened her eyes. They were the deep, rich blue of the sky at twilight, or an ocean wave right before it crested on the beach. She looked at me like a startled deer must look at a hunter. I smiled at her without thinking. My instincts were to play it cool, but I couldn't help it. Seeing her face just made me happy. Fucking absurdly happy. Like a crazy person. Or a little kid who really, really wanted a red balloon. Hey.
Chapter 2. Molly. I blinked at the mirage in front of me. I was tired and I had a full day ahead of me, so for a minute I was 100% positive I was hallucinating. There was a ridiculously good-looking guy on a motorcycle staring at me. Good-looking, with chiseled cheekbones, a strong jaw, and a penetrating gaze. But dangerous-looking, with his fitted leather jacket and the tattoos peeking out at the top of his shirt and wrists. He looked like a movie star, like a modern-day James Dean, but even more dangerous. He looked like a Bond villain, a stranger. But no. I did know him. I'd met him briefly less than 12 hours ago. Calloway, Bonnie's grandson. How could I forget? The truth was, I hadn't. He'd flustered me badly the night before. I'd had a hard time not thinking about him throughout the long night shift. I just hadn't expected to see him again so soon. Oh, hi, I frowned. He was dedicated to his grandmother, I knew. Bonnie had told me all about him when I came back around with my book cart. But he'd just been here the night before. Surely he wasn't coming twice in 1 week, let alone twice in 1 day. What are you doing here? It's too early for visiting hours. He smiled, and I almost took a step back. It was so blinding. The man looked like a GQ model, minus all that ink. Giving you a ride. He held out the helmet, offering it to me. I stared dumbly at it, then back at his handsome face. Where to? Huh? You said you got off early, so I came back. You want breakfast? I know a good spot. Oh, how I wanted to say yes. He made me nervous, but he was being so nice. And he was so very, very nice to look at. But I didn't have time. I had to get to my day job. And I was so tired. I didn't have any room for distractions, especially one that looked like trouble. Calloway looked like he knew everything about women and sex and lots of other things I should definitely stay away from. Meanwhile, I hadn't gone out with a boy since 9th grade. The year my folks died in an accident. The same accident that put my little brother in a coma. A coma he woke up from briefly now and then almost immediately went back under. My aunt had taken me in and helped with the paperwork to take care of Tommy, but when I turned 18, he had become my responsibility, and my aunt had washed her hands of us. She wasn't unkind. She just hadn't ever wanted kids of her own. And she had done her best for us without any actual enthusiasm. After I moved out, she sold her little house and moved down south. She wanted to be warm all year. She told me I had an open invitation to visit her. The small, unkind voice in the back of my head told me that she knew I never would. She knew I would never leave Tommy, never risk his waking up and my being so far away, not being there when he needed me. All these thoughts passed through my overtired brain as the gorgeous, somewhat disreputable-looking man waited patiently for me to respond. It was probably less than a minute, but it felt like a lot longer to me. Oh, no, that's okay. He tilted his head to the side. You got a ride? I can follow you to May's Diner. It's really good. I shook my head swiftly. I wished I had a car. It would have made my 18-hour workday a lot easier. Then again, I was usually so tired I was delirious. I caught lots of catnaps on the bus. No car. His head remained tilted to the side, his eyes raking over me. But he didn't leer like so many men did. He drank me in like his eyeballs had straws in them. He was intense, but not scary, which was odd considering how he looked. He stepped closer and I realized how tall he was, how big and how strong. He probably could have broken me in two. I still wasn't afraid. Wary, yes, skittish, but not frightened. Is it the bike? Is that what's bothering you? He ran his hand through his hair. No. Yes. He cracked a smile, and I was once again struck by how insanely attractive he was. The man oozed sex appeal. Not that I actually knew a thing about sex. Which is it? I have to go. Okay, I'll drop you anywhere you want. I have to go to work. Like I said, I'll take you. We can catch a rain check on the food. I had no answer for that. I stood perfectly still as he came closer, lowering the helmet onto my head. I broke out in chills at the gentle way he pushed my hair away and fastened the chin strap. I was mesmerized by the look in his eyes. It wasn't just warm. It was blazing hot. He took my hand and rubbed his cheek on it. I got shivers from the feeling of his skin on mine. It was so strangely intimate, almost like he was a cat wanting to be petted. He smiled at me, this time looking like a wolf. He squeezed my hand and tugged me toward the bike. Bike was a laughably soft word for the giant metal machine he rode. I tried not to shiver when I saw the devil's pitchfork emblazoned on the fuel tank. Where are we going? Oakley's, he nodded. I know where that is. He helped me onto the bike. You always pull back-to-back shifts? Yes. I take every shift I can get. He frowned a little bit, then shook his head. That's a lot of work for a little girl like you. He climbed on in front of me, then reached back to drag me against him. I gasped at the feeling of our bodies pressing together. It was by far the most intimate thing I'd felt in my life. And the smell of him? Leather and oil and something else. Pine. He smelled like the woods on a cool autumn night. I shook my head at that fanciful thought, like I'd ever been in the woods at night. I held on for dear life during the 20-minute ride over to Oakley's. It was exciting and exhilarating. I was grateful for the cool wind in my face, which finally woke me up. Usually it took me almost an hour to make the trip. I was actually early for my shift. This was definitely a much better way to travel. I smiled in thanks as he helped me to my feet. Thank you for the ride. Can I see you later? I shook my head swiftly. I have to work. He stared at me. His brows snapped together over his stormy green eyes. I was pretty sure he wasn't used to being told no, not by anyone, let alone a girl. You're working tonight? I nodded, rubbing my arms. It wasn't cold out, but I hadn't worn a jacket. Tonight, when I went home to shower before my shift, I would handle it. I'd dress warmer, I decided. Maybe I'd even sleep a few hours. You've got to sleep sometime, girl. I stood up straight. Molly. He ran his knuckles over my cheek, and I shivered, swaying a little on my feet. You have to get some sleep, Molly. I'm fine. I should clock in. I went to go and he grabbed me, his hands firm on my shoulders. Then his mouth swooped down on mine. I inhaled sharply at the feeling of his lips. They were shockingly soft, but firm, insistent. I gasped when I felt his tongue slide along my lips and jumped backward. He stood there, a slow smile on his face. Dear God, I hope you're legal. What? How old are you, sweetheart? He held up his hand. Actually, don't tell me. Lie. You are 18, right? I nodded slowly. What was he asking me? Are you really 18? He shook his head. I guess I do have a conscience, after all. Yes. Why? Because if you weren't, this would be illegal. He pounced on me, pressing me against the brick wall. His body pressed into mine. He seemed to mold into every soft part of me until we were one. I was shocked and elated at the same time. His tongue dove into my mouth. It should have been gross, but it wasn't. It was hot and tingly and fascinating. His tongue stroked mine, exploring my mouth. I felt my head fall back and his lips were on my throat, sucking and licking and biting. His hands roved over my tea, up and down my back, until they settled on my bottom. He squeezed me and I let out a yelp. Please don't stop me, sweetheart. I pushed against him. I have to go. He didn't move. He just leaned against the wall behind me. What time do you get off? 7, I blurted out. Liar. That's a 12-hour shift, and the night staff at the home comes on at 6:30.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?